Hi there, my name is Emma, and today we are going to talk about a very, very common mistake that ESL and native speakers make. Rise or raise. So these two words, which are very similar, they look almost the same except this one has an A, confuse students a lot. So this lesson will tell you what the difference between these two words are. What are the different forms of these verbs, and some tricks to remember the difference. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to show you is that one of the reasons why these verbs are so frequently confused is that rise and raise, they're both verbs that mean pretty much to move upward. So both of these words have sort of this meaning, to move upward. So first we're going to look at raise. So here I have raise in the present form, so the present tense, raised in the past tense, just like regular past tense verbs, you add ed. And for the present perfect, I have raised, again, past participle is just ed. So you can repeat this to yourself. Raise, raised, raised. Okay? So let's look at some examples. I raise my hand. So this means my hand goes upward. Just like this, it moves up. So oftentimes in class, the teacher says, if you have a question, raise your hand. Okay? And so one of the main things about raise is that in this sentence we have a subject. I is the subject of the sentence. We have the verb, which you know, raise. We also have what's called an object. So an object is something. The verb can't stand alone. I can't say, I raise. It's always, what do you raise? I raise what? I raise something. So you always need an object with raise. So I raise my hand. I raise the marker. I raise my voice, which means I get louder. So second example, my boss raised my salary. This is something I hope that happens. It means my salary, the amount of money I get paid for work, goes up. It increases. So again, we have the subject, your boss, or my boss. We have the verb, raised, and as always with raised, you need an object. So what is raised? My salary. There always has to be something after the verb. Next example, I have raised my kids well. We often use the word raised in this context when we're talking about children. It means pretty much, how have you parented your children? So how have you taken care of your children? What have you taught them? I raised my kids well is just an example of how you parented them. So again, I can't say I have raised. I need an object. In this case, the object is someone. My kids. This is a good example for raised. So next, and remember, present tense, just an E, past tense, ED, present perfect or the past participle, ED. So the main thing to remember, you need an object with raise. So now let's look at the word rise. Okay, so as I said before, rise and raise, they both mean to move upward. So now let's look at rise. In the present tense, rise. Simple. This is when it gets a little bit more difficult. In the past tense, rose. So we don't add ed in the past tense like we do to regular verbs. Rise is an irregular verb. So this is something you're just going to have to memorize. So rose is the past tense. And finally, the past participle, which we would use, for example, in the present perfect, risen. So rise, rose, risen. Okay, so that's the first difference. With raise, it's a regular verb. It's easy. In the past tense, all you have to do is add ed. For rise, it's not as simple. You have to memorize rose and risen. So now let's look at some sentences to get a better understanding of the word rise. So number 1, the sun rises. Means the sun goes up, moves upward. Now what do you notice about the sentence? Is there an object? So we have the subject, which is the sun, at the beginning of the sentence. We have the verb, the action, rises. Is there anything else? Is there an object? No. So this is the main way that rise differs. There's no object. Whereas in raise, there is an object. We can also say the moon rises. The sun rises and the moon rises are one of the most common ways you will use this word. Number 2, I've just risen from my chair. So this means I was seated and I stood up. So I went from a seated position and then I stood up, so I moved upward. Now in this case, I've used the present perfect. I've just risen from my chair. So again, we have the subject, The subject is I. We have the verb, have just risen. Now do we have an object? Now I know some of you might see from my chair and think that's the object. But no, from is a preposition. It's not a thing. So in this sentence, we don't actually have an object. I can't say, I've just risen my hand. No. I've just risen my pen. No. There's no object. There's no something here. It's just a preposition from my chair. So the only thing that's rising is your whole body. So there's no object. Number 3, the bread rose in the oven. So this means that the bread, before the yeast is cooked, it's flat. And then as it heats, it starts to rise. And it's an upward movement. So the bread goes from being flat to being thicker and tastier. So the bread rose in the oven. So where's the subject? The bread. The verb, rose. And so again, this is the past tense of rise. Now, do we have an object? Now, you see the word in the oven? In, just like from, is a preposition. It's not a thing. It's not an object. So no, we actually don't have an object in the sentence. I could even say, I could get rid of this whole thing in both these sentences and say, I've just risen. That's grammatically correct. I could say, the bread rose. You don't need anything else in the sentence. All you need is a subject and the verb rise. So let's do some more practice questions with this, comparing raise and rise. Okay, so time to practice rise and raise. So I have 6 questions here, and I want you to help me out with these. So we're going to go through each of them, and I want you to tell me if the answer is rise or raise. Okay, and don't worry so much about tense. Whether you use the past tense, present tense, past or present perfect, as long as you use the right verb, that's what I'm looking for. So let's get started. Number 1, my grandmother, me. My grandmother, me. So do you think it's raise or rise? The answer is raised. So how do I know? Well, again, raised me means similar to parented you or acted like a parent to you. So my grandmother was like a parent to me. She took care of me and raised me. So what's the subject of the sentence? Grandmother. The verb? Raised. And is there an object? Again, an object can be something or someone. Yes. Me is the object. So So therefore, I know it has to be raised because there's an object. Number 2, you must rise or you must raise. Which one do you think is the correct answer? You must rise. Okay, you must rise. So again, raise and rise, very similar meaning. It just means to go up. So if I rise, maybe I'm seated, I'm sitting down in a chair, and I stand up. I rise. So how do I know it's rise? Well, here we have the subject. Must rise is the verb. Is there an object? Anything after the verb? No. So it has to be rise. Okay, number 3, the sun raises or the sun rises? So what do you think it is? Rises. The sun rises. Again, the sun is the subject. The verb, the action, is rise. Is there an object? Is there something or someone after the verb? No. So there's nothing here, so we know it's rises. Number 4, rise your hand or raise your hand? What do you think it is? Raise your hand. So in this sentence, we actually don't have a subject. This is an imperative. So it's an order. Somebody's giving you a command. Just like what your parents did when you were younger. Sometimes they tell you what to do. Raise your hand. So it's a command. Here we have the verb, raise, and we still have an object. You raise something. So in this case, the something is your hand. So raise your hand. And again, this is one of the most common expressions you will hear with raise, so this is a very good one to memorize. Number 5, heat, heat, raises or rises? Heat rises, meaning hotness or heat moves upward. Okay? That's why if you're in a house and you sleep on the top floor of the house, your room's probably going to be hotter because heat rises. It moves up. So in this case, how did I know it was rises? Well, we have here a subject. We have a verb. Do we have an object? Something or someone that comes right after the verb? No object. So we know it's rise. Okay, I hope you're getting the hang of this. Number 6, I will rise my glass to you or raise my glass to you. What do you think? I will raise my glass to you. So it's almost like a toast. You lift up your glass. It moves upward. So I will raise my glass to you. How did I know it was raise? Well, here's my subject, I. Will raise is the verb. And is there an object? Is there something or someone that comes right after the verb? Yes. My glass is the object. So I will raise my glass to you. So if you want to practice this more, which I highly recommend, I know that these can be very confusing, I hope you'll come visit us at our website at www.engvid.com. We have a quiz on this specific topic, and it can really help to highlight some of the differences. So until next time, take care.